So I guess now's the time for us to start moving on to the next part of this discussion, which is talking about sort of where we stand and the next steps to take together. As you understand, the biopsy does indeed show a return of the lymphoma. If you think back to when we first started working together, back those couple of years ago, when you were first diagnosed, we made mention at that time that even if it comes back, God forbid, there is still going to be an opportunity to pursue cure. And that's where we find ourselves now. The nature of relapsed aggressive lymphoma is that it's a dangerous illness, but it remains potentially curable with good treatment and with good success. The standard approach here is to give a new, different type of chemotherapy than you got originally. We only give R-CHOP once. To give it a second time is actually too hard on the heart for most patients. This 1-2 punch approach of trying to give treatment to shrink the disease and then other treatment to try to mop it up and turn it into a lasting cure is what we think of as a standard approach in this disease. Is this something that you've heard about or read about before?
No. No, not really. But,
Good. Means you've been doing better stuff with your time. The purpose of this treatment really is to try to cure, and many times people will confront a relapse of a disease and have concerns that this means that they're going to die or that there is no hope, and that's really not where we stand right now. It's this balancing of understanding that the disease is dangerous, but having a very clear understanding that there is still this potential for cure. When you give this treatment, the first treatment, about half of people will have a very good response to the treatment, the disease shrinking down a lot or disappearing entirely. Some patients will have it completely disappear. Many patients will have it get close. There is a set of patients that the treatment doesn't work in, and we'll talk more about that possibility in a couple minutes. But let's focus on the positive aspect, that understanding that many patients will have significant disease improvement. In those patients, when you go on to the second step of giving that single round of high potency therapy, again, many of those patients who can get to that point in treatment will be cured by that therapy. Cure meaning goes away, never comes back, happily ever after the end. That remains the goal of treatment, and that remains my hope. What about those other patients, the ones in whom the treatment, this next treatment isn't successful? Those patients still have treatment choices and treatment options, and if that's where we find ourselves together, there will be other options and other choices, and cure remains a possibility. But clearly in that situation, the risk is magnified, and the disease is showing itself to be even more dangerous. And we might want to be thinking in that situation about less standard treatments, potentially experimental therapies, or treatments to stimulate the immune system as opposed to just trying to kill cancer cells with poisons. No matter what happens, good or bad, there's going to be options and choices. This isn't a situation where I say there's nothing I can do, there's nothing we can do together. It simply is going to be a matter of trying to make sure that the treatments that we're choosing together make sense for your disease, how the treatments are working, and how you're feeling.
that sounds great.
Questions about this sort of strategy of the stepwise therapy?
No, it makes sense from what you said.
Okay, I guess I'm doing my job okay so far.